This big fat Pikachu plush is actually a very good sign for the Pokemon 30th anniversary that's just around the corner. Let me explain. When Pokemon games first released, Pikachu was very big, fat, and chunky, but over the years, if you noticed, Pikachu started to actually slim down as we progressed in different Pokemon games. The only time we actually got to see the big, fat, chunky Pikachu was in Pokemon Sword and Shield when Pikachu was able to G-Max, and a lot of us were really excited when we got to see Chonkachu. Now, why is Fat Pikachu such a big deal for the 30th anniversary? Well, Fat Pikachu represents the origin of Pokemon, which Pokemon Red and Pokemon Green released on the Game Boy in 1996. What this means is Pokemon is actually going to focus on its origins before we move on to a next generation, along with all the announcements that come with it. But we'll talk about more of the future stuff later in this video. Now, Pokemon Day is specifically going to be on February 27th, and there's probably going to be a live stream or a Pokemon video at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on that day, which I will be live streaming, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel and come hang out because there's gonna be some crazy announcements during that time, and we're gonna go over those predictions very soon. But it really matters because Pokemon actually released on February 27th in 1996, like we mentioned before. And Pokemon Day is so important because it literally sets the direction and how the Pokemon franchise is supposed to go for the entire year. So every single year, a lot of people are always coping, including me, that we're gonna be getting virtual console Game Boy games on the Nintendo Switch, which never actually happened because now the Switch 2 is here. But now the big speculation is that because it is the 30th anniversary, that we could actually get Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, Yellow, Silver, Gold, all on our Nintendo Switch via virtual console. And this year is the real year I truly believe that it could possibly happen, is because of that big fat chunky Pikachu. What better way to celebrate the 30th anniversary by giving the fans what they truly want? Now, before we get more into Pokemon Day, I do want to talk about all the crazy things that the Pokemon Company is actually doing globally. Actual crazy events, theme parks, etc. that is happening that you should probably know about to really indicate why the 30th anniversary is a really big deal. First off, we have the Pokemon Park, Pokepark Kanto, which is happening. There's images that have dropped online with a bunch of Pokemon statues all over the park. I think it's over 200 that have been showing up everywhere. There was a whole group of media that was allowed in to give everybody a sneak preview of what is to come. This official opening is going to be happening on February 5th, 2026, and you're going to see so much content from all the influencers that are flying out there to go ahead and check it out. I wish I could, but I'll be at home covering all the new stuff that's happening with gaming. But one day I'll be going to Pokepark. And let me know if you're also interested, because this is going to be taking place in Japan, and what it is exactly is Pokemon's first permanent outdoor theme park based on the Kanto region. That's where Fat Pikachu is from. We're going back to the origins. As I mentioned, guys, it's actually happening. We're really honing in on the roots of Pokemon here. And this is not something that's going to be just a little pop-up experience. It is going to be a permanent thing that Pokemon is going to be doing in Japan for the Pokepark Kanto. And just recently, on January 22nd, 2026, Universal Studios announced that there is going to be a long-term immersive Pokemon project that is happening in Japan, which is going to be an expansion beyond just the seasonal parades or events that they do in Universal Studios, which is a pretty big deal. This is Pokemon now not just being in a Pokemon park, but they're also going to fully step into global theme parks on top of just having the Pokepark. You're first going to see it in Japan, and then it's most likely going to make its way to America because we already have the Super Mario themed Universal experience over here. So why not just add the Pokemon one over here once it's a great success over in Japan? It's kind of crazy how this announcement is also tied to the same exact year as the 30th anniversary. Now, besides just theme parks and big entertainment, Pokemon is getting a little historical and a little more chill when it comes to doing museum-like events. Yes, there's actually a museum pop-up event happening right now in London, which is going to be the collaboration between Pokemon and the Natural History Museum pop-up. Basically, Pokemon partnered with the real museum, which is in a way Pokemon putting itself with history and culture to bring it to you. There's a bunch of merch that is going to be available over there. I believe they also released it on the Pokemon UK website, which you could probably purchase, as well as a jumbo promo card for just visiting the event. It's kind of a really interesting thing that Pokemon is doing. Now, not only are they going to have something in London, but there's actually going to be a museum exhibit taking place on May 22nd to April 11th, 2027 in Chicago, and it's going to be the Pokemon Fossil Museum, which I think is really cool because we've been going through so many Pokemon games where we've actually seen fossils, but now you get to envision them and see them in real time. My favorite fossil Pokemon is actually Tyrantrum, so let me know what your favorite fossil Pokemon is down below. Now, besides all these crazy attractions and theme parks that are happening, there's a big event besides Pokemon Day that takes place in 2026, and it's the second most important event besides Pokemon Day, which is going to be Pokemon Worlds. Now, they just didn't label it as Pokemon Worlds for this year, but they actually are calling it Pokemon XP, so it's going to be Pokemon's first style convention themed experience, which is going to be taking place inside of the Chase Stadium inside of San Francisco, which seats so many people. So we're really getting close to an actual world stage finale where, who knows, in the future, maybe 5-10 years from now, we're gonna have holograms showing up of Pokemon battling. It's gonna look insane. I don't know what the future of Pokemon holds, but every single year we're making these advancements and it's absolutely mind-blowing. And for those wondering, you can go check it out at the Pokemon XP website. The dates are gonna be August 28th to August 30th, so whenever tickets do pop up, I have a feeling they might announce the tickets during Pokemon Day. You'll be able to secure one, hopefully, and get into Pokemon Worlds. And they have a ton of exclusive merch there. This Varsity Jacket Pikachu was at the exclusive Pokemon Center, which was given out in Pokemon Worlds that took place in Anaheim. To put in context, they have their own pop-up Pokemon Center that shows up at all these events, and all the merchandise there is pretty much exclusive, minus some general items, but there's so many exclusive items there, I cannot even imagine. The amount of money you lose going to these Pokemon events is insane. I went crazy. You probably would go crazy too if you went there. Besides Pokemon Home, one of the big announcements during Pokemon Worlds 2025 was the fact that all World Championship formats for VG will be taking place inside of something known as Pokemon Champions. Now, I know there was just an initial hype behind it when it was announced, and we really haven't talked about it or seen anything about it. I have a feeling Pokemon Champions might be dropped that day. I think it's going to be available later after Pokemon Day happens. It's definitely coming very soon because it has to have players ready to go before Pokemon Worlds. Pokemon Champions is going to allow everybody to try out different formats of battling within the entire Pokemon genre. There's going to be G-Maxes, there's going to be Mega Evolutions, there's going to be Terrestrialization, and the best part about that is you can play this on Nintendo Switch 1, Nintendo Switch 2, as well as mobile. Yes, Pokemon is going to allow this to happen on mobile, which means if you're on a PC or a Mac and you just download an Android emulation, you can boot up Pokemon Champions on your computer, which is a really good way of being able to play it. That's the way a lot of us streamers are able to rip packs for Pokemon TCG Pocket. I know some people play Pokemon Unite via the Android emulator on their computer, which is a pretty good way of experiencing the mobile games. Before we keep going, I've been traveling a lot lately, and I've been going to Japan and upstate New York, filming something, which is why there's been a bit of a slow content output from me. So let's talk about today's video sponsor, Bellroy. And yeah, I've actually been using their stuff while traveling. Bellroy let me choose 2 items to check out, and I chose the Transit Carry-On, which is this suitcase, and the Light Travel Pack, which is this bag. And it's made my traveling experience at the airport much easier. The carry-on is clean, lightweight, easy to move through the airport, fits everything without feeling bulky. Long flights, short flights, overhead bin, I had literally 0 issues with any of that. And this backpack has actually been clutch, especially when it came to TSA at the airport, because you all know how annoying it is when they ask you to pull out your laptop and you're just digging in through your backpack. But with this backpack, it had its own little compartment that I could just pull it out and show them, and it was that easy. Now, Bellroy actually has a ton of stuff on their website too. They've also got travel gear, everyday carry, wallets, tech organizers, basically a ton of essential stuff. It looks premium, feels premium, but you're not paying some kind of wild luxury price just for a logo. Everything feels thought out and actually built for people who are on the go and travel. So if you want gear that just makes life easier, which is why Bellroy's been a solid upgrade for me, links in the description and you should totally check them out. You can also get a 10% discount off on Bellroy.com by using the link. Big thanks to Bellroy for sponsoring this video. All right, let's get back to what we were talking about. Now, one of the biggest problems that the entire Pokemon community has suffered with is scalpers. When it comes to TCG products, the biggest plague is scalpers. They just take everything and they start selling it online. There's disgusting behavior, honestly, and Pokemon actually has started to combat this significantly by just non-stop printing, so that a lot of fans can get their hands on these really cool products, because there are a lot of cool TCG cards that have just come out. On top of that, Pokemon is acquiring ordering a bunch of printing presses the size of like 7 to 11 football fields, which means I don't think we're gonna have a printing shortage on Pokemon TCG products anymore. So I think maybe around the late 2026, 2027, we should see a lot more output of TCG products. There should be a lot more ready to be available to people to pick up, and we don't really have to worry too much about scalpers, and hopefully they move on to the One Piece TCG and leave the Pokemon cards alone, because I need to collect some Pokemon cards. Now that we talked about the hype surrounding Pokemon, where the theme parks and all that, let's talk exactly about what's going to happen on Pokemon Day, because I am very excited. Now, of course, on this channel, we play a ton of games, Nintendo-based as well as Pokemon-based. So let's talk about these video games. Now, the first game that's coming out that we know is going to happen really soon is going to be Pokopia. Pokopia is going to be releasing on March 5th on the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusively. So we've reached the era of now Pokemon games are no longer going to be on hybrid Switch 1 and Switch 2, and we're finally making that pivot towards the Switch 2, and they decided to make Pokopia the first Pokemon game to be on the Switch 2 before Generation 10 does happen, which, speaking of Generation 10, we have finally reached the point of Pokemon Legends ZA completing. I think if they announce a DLC for this game, another DLC where maybe you could walk outside of Lumio City, I will be very surprised. In fact, it's not even on my mind that that could happen, but if we do, that would be pretty cool, because we did have sequences in the game towards the end where you're going up to Darkrai and it was outside, and I thought that was pretty cool, and they do have room to do that, but I don't think they're going to be focusing on that because we have Pokopia, and that's going to lead into probably Generation 10 right after that. Now, Generation 10 is got to be announced because we've reached the end. Like I mentioned, ZA's over pretty much, and we have Generation 10. Now, Generation 10 is going to have the announcement of the starters, most likely. It's going to show the region. We're all going to freak out, and it's going to show some kind of gameplay, and that's it. I don't think we're going to get anything crazy beyond that for Generation 10, with the release of it happening in the fall or winter. That's as far as my prediction goes for Generation 10. Now, we also have some big updates and announcements that we are still missing as of this video. We do not have Pokemon Home compatibility with Pokemon Legends ZA yet, and that I think needs to happen. It could happen on Pokemon Day, and I think it should happen on Pokemon Day. I also think besides Pokemon Home compatibility, they're going to announce a reward for finishing your entire decks. I think you might get a shiny Hoopa. Maybe that's going to be a DLC reward, or maybe even a shiny Zeraora. I think that would be pretty sick, and they have all these mythical Pokemon and legendary Pokemon rewards, so I think it's definitely something that can happen with Pokemon Home. Let me know if you agree on that. Now, beyond that, I think we're just going to get a general Pokemon Go update. We're going to get a TCG Pocket announcement for a new expansion, probably something really insane. We're probably going to get a TCG, the actual TCG announcement for another new set. I know those go crazy at Pokemon Worlds where they announce a new set for the competitive format, so maybe we might get an announcement for that when it comes to the Pokemon Direct. We might get some maybe announcements in regards to all the Pokepark stuff we've been talking about, the Universal announcement. I think maybe they might announce a film announcement. Who knows? Maybe a new series, Netflix. They usually do all that stuff. It's going to be all the minor stuff, the announcements. But I think one of the big things that we talked about at the beginning of this video was the announcement of Virtual Console coming to the Nintendo Switch. I mean, again, this is why we talked about Fat Pikachu. Fat Pikachu's importance is really, really significant, and I think this could really signal the fact that we're going to get the Virtual Console games on the Nintendo Switch 2. I also think that we could possibly get 3DS games to be announced on the Switch, and how I'm thinking this is going to work is they're going to have an attachment for the top of your Switch with the USB-C all the way at the top, where you're going to have a 3DS-like screen. But the reason why I don't think it's going to exactly happen during Pokemon Day is because I feel like Nintendo has to make an announcement before Pokemon Day. So hopefully we get a Nintendo Direct before Pokemon Day, because if we get that 3DS style announcement attached to the Nintendo Switch, then we should be good for Pokemon Day to announce the 3DS stuff on the Nintendo Switch 2. That would be mind-blowing. Maybe I'm coping, everybody, but I think that is going to be a significant feature, devices, whatever they want to do to have the 3DS features on the Nintendo Switch 2. And as we get closer to Pokemon Day, you're going to start seeing a lot more collaborations happening. They already did the Pokemon Lego collaboration. They also did the Secret Lab Pokemon chair collaboration. I believe there was also another one happening in Asia. There's just crazy Pokemon collaborations happening left and right. We don't know when they're going to drop. I think there was also a Puma collaboration. Who knows? Maybe Nike, Adidas. I'm just saying, be on the lookout. The hype is happening. Let me know exactly what you all want to see in the comments below. This is a little bit of a discussion video. If you like this, leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you all on Pokemon Day.